Okay, fine. So in the previous session, we completed a supplier import process by using FBDI. So this is a process we followed. When I talk about the process, okay, this is the process. These are the steps involved. But when you look at this and overall process, there are primarily three steps, right? Whatever we did, these are the primarily three steps we have. So I'm just going to talk about few points on what we did already, so we can get some more clarification on that. Then we'll jump into invoice import process. Okay.
Good morning,
So
Lakshman. This is Tarun
load
here.
file
Are
into
you able to listen to me?
data files, or say upload data files into UCM, Universal Content Management. When you load the data into UCM, what happens is here no validation. So just let me talk about these points since these are very much important to understand. So when you load the data into UCM, no validation from system side. Okay, you have some spreadsheet and you download it from the website and you fill some data. Whatever the data you write in that spreadsheet, anyway, system will allow you to convert into CSV. Once we load that file into UCM, no validation system will conduct. That point we should be very clear. Okay, done. We load it into UCM. Now, to populate the data, whatever we have in that file to interface tables, we have to run the load interface file from import. Just give me 1 second. Getting some one participant call. 1 second. Okay. Seems to these speakers are off from my end. I'm sorry for that. Okay.
Hi,
Hope.
Lakshman. Tarun here.
Yeah, Tarun. Hi.
Hi, great. At last, you're able to hear me.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, like I joined the session today, and I wanted to know which is the session number this one,
Yeah, just
and when was the last session?
this will be discussing after the class.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Fine. Okay. I'm sorry because from my side the speakers I kept mute. Okay, fine, done. Fine. So, so already we just done with the supplier import. Supplier import by using FPDI process, file-based data import process. So to talk about this process, this is actual detailed process already discussed and we did, but I want to take you through the few points once again. So this is a process, but these are the key activities which we do within that, key steps which are involved. Three steps: first we'll load into UCM, then we'll populate interface, then finally we'll take into base tables. I'm just talking about supplier import only. So when we talk about supplier import, first file will be loading into UCM. When you load the file into UCM, doesn't matter what data you have within the file, system won't conduct any validation. Okay, done. The next step is we'll try to populate the same file into interface tables. Okay, when you try to populate the data into interface tables, here what system will do here, it will conduct uh, we can hear noise. Okay, fine, thanks. Okay, fine. So when you try to load the data into interface tables, there will be very few validations. Okay, there won't be many validations, a few validations. Okay, so that example I'll give you in case of invoice import process. But because see here, when you're trying to load the when you are trying to populate the data from that file to interface table, there will be few validations which system will check, but there will be some basic validations. Means the mandatory fields we are populating the data or not, system will see. Why I'm mentioning the few validations, really system won't look for the validations with the our application. Okay, system cannot perform the validations when we are loading the data into interface table with the data which is there in the available in the application. This point I'll just make it more clear when we are doing that. Or else let me take example. I'm trying to load the supplier sites. So I'm loading the supplier sites. Already we loaded. Okay. Or else I'm trying to load the supplier address. Say in system already we loaded. We have a supplier called as ABC supplier. Already we have ABC supplier. The supplier already we loaded. Now second import program is address. But in the address, supplier address import file, I just mentioned supplier as XYZ. I'll mention XYZ supplier. That file I converted into CSV file, I load into UCM, no validations. The same file I'll be populating in the interface. When I am trying to populate the interface into interface tables, within the file I have XYZ supplier and address is address 1. Address 1 I have. Now when I'm trying to, but in fact we have to give the address for ABC because in our system we don't have XYZ supplier. But say by mistake I give an XYZ supplier in the spreadsheet instead of giving ABC and I return the address 1, then that file I'll try to import into interface table. System will accept. System will accept. Only system will look for whether in the interface level supplier name is, there will be on column supplier name is mandatory, whether the test is there for the supplier name and all, system will look for, it will accept here. So that's the reason I'm saying just few validations. Okay, there will be just for each and every field validations will be there. Why I'm mentioning the few validation, it won't verify which supplier is existed when you are trying to load the data in the interface table. That we know that, we know that point very well. So once we're done with that, if you take this case, when we're trying to load this data into base tables, then here it will fail. Okay, up to interface there is no issue because if you are not giving the supplier name, here also it will fail. But you given the supplier name, but it may be right or wrong, there won't be an issue. Only system will look for the validations in the interface level that proper parameter is provided by user or not. When you load the information into base, when you try to load the information to base table, system will verify, okay, we have address with XYZ, but when we're trying to load into base tables, whether that XYZ supplier is existed in the system or not, it will verify. If it is not available, that address loading will get failed. Otherwise, if you are loading the same ABC supplier, then it will be succeeded. Okay, these are the 3 steps process which is involved. In this stage, say for example, you have a file. Within the file address, like when you are loading the supplier address, we'll give the supplier name also. So when you are loading that file, within the file you didn't provide any supplier name. If you don't provide the supplier name when you try to load into interface, okay, since the supplier name field is not filled in that spreadsheet, here it will be failed, and that what is the reason it is failed you can see through log file. Even when it is failing in this stage also you can see through log file only. System will generate the log file. I'll show you today. Anyway, we are going to see the supplier import. In that process I'll show you. Since already we did this, just I'm giving this bullet points to understand once again whatever we did, how that can be, how system will understand and what points we have to consider. So this is how the process works when I talk about supplier import. So here no validations when you load into UCM, and when you are populating the data into interface, there are no proper validations with the system data. Only the consideration is the all mandatory fields are filled by user and provided or not. Sometimes there will be some validations related to date format and all. That anyway I'm going to cover in today's session related to suppliers, related to open invoices load. Okay, that I'll take it off. And when we are trying to load the data into base tables, there will be definitely 100% validation. System will verify whether supplier is existed or not. If not existed, it will fail. We know that process. Already this process we completed. The today's session we'll see open invoice import. Okay, okay. Payables, open invoice import by using FBDA. Okay, here also same, just when we are loading the file into UCM, no validations. Okay, no validations. And second point is, when you are trying to load this file into interface table, okay, just system primarily will look for all mandatory fields are populating with the data or not, it will see. The other very important validation here system will have is date format. Okay, sorry, date format validation. See, for all other fields, okay, for all other fields system will have a validation. Only the validation will be limited to up to interface tables only. Within the interface table, when you are loading that file information, system will see whether all fields are filled which are mandatory. Of course, the same time it will look for what is the data we are filling. If the field property is only number, if you are giving some test alphanumeric and all, as in that case also it will be failed. But those points I'm not taking into consideration here. Just primarily I'm taking date format. In the same way, date format, Oracle is specifying source of format. In that date format only, the file has to be loaded to the system. If something wrong with that, it will get errored out. Okay, and apart from that, the based on the field property, that is alphanumeric or numeric, what exactly that format you have to provide. Okay, if there is something wrong with that, in that case also it will get failed. And here also, here system will conduct more validations, many validations. When we are loading the data, when we are importing the data from interface to base table, system will have a thorough validation. Whatever the data is coming from interface to base tables, the dependent data is existed in the system or not, everything just the system will verify. Okay, we'll see this detail level, whatever I'm trying to explain, those points we'll see more detail level, so with the examples. So today what I'll do is, we'll do this process one. Okay, fine. Here in this stage, system will create, if something wrong with the data, it will create the log file. And in this stage, if anything wrong with that, it will create the, here it's a log file, it will just create some PDF file, I mean output file. It will the whatever the execution, if any exceptions are there, even if you don't have an exception, so what is the outcome of the, okay, the outcome report it will generate. So we'll see this process, we'll do this. While we are testing, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go with the two scenarios here. This file level, one case will test, I'll give wrong date format so that we can correct it, and again we can reload. This is a one scenario. And second scenario, I'll test by giving the wrong supplier in the invoice. These two scenarios will test to understand how to debug the issues when you are loading the open invoices to the system. Okay, let's do this process. So first we'll go and just download that file. Where we have that. Yep. So this is a URL we have to use. We'll go and download the file. Go to financials, release 11, and file base import for financials cloud. just expand this file based data imports. So here template, what we need is payable standard invoice import. Just click on this hyperlink, and here we have a template. So place the cursor on this and right click and say save link as. Just click on save link as. We'll save the desktop. I'll give the folder name as open invoice import. Save this file into that folder. Okay. So this repair to this message, you can ignore it. Just close it. You don't need to worry about it. Okay. Fine. So by default it's opening. Okay, now just here we have a two tabs, app invoice interface and app invoice lines interface. Go to app invoice interface tab, and here you can see the sample data. Okay, you can see the sample data. Now I'm going to remove all the records here except one we use for reference purpose to add some invoice details. Just remove all the records. Remove from line level also. I'll be removing all the data except one record. Okay, and just save it. Once you're done with this, you can save. Let's select the same and also save. Okay. Okay, now we'll just add one invoice record in this template. Invoice ID. You can take any ID. I'm taking 1234. And business unit. That I'll just connect to the system instance. Okay, just navigate to invoice workbench. Just go to this task panel. So create invoice. Just to copy the data, I'm just selecting these BU under supplier information. Sorry. So fusion supplier. Okay, these details are enough to copy into the template. Okay, first we need business unit. You can copy from here. It won't create any issue for the template formats and all. So this is a business unit. And source, you can say source is external, or else you can write as spreadsheet. But before that, you have to make sure that what is the source name you are writing here that is exist in our application. Okay, instance. Invoice number, I'll give Fusion US1, and invoice amount, say $2,500, and invoice format. Okay, so here I'll go with the wrong format so that we can understand where we can go and see that error, that information we can get. So for that reason, I'm going to give here month December 15th and 16th. I'm going to set this format. I'm just intentional. I'm going to give some wrong format. Okay, the date format I'll select in this way. I'm just saving that format. Save it. Okay, actually this is not the format which we have to give for just our testing. I'm just taking the wrong format. Okay, now supplier name. I'll take the supplier name, copy and paste from the application, and supplier number 1336, supplier site, and invoice currency and payment currency. Fine, same, USD and USD. If you want to have a different currency also, we can. That already we discussed and we did in the system also. I don't need any description for this invoice, and I don't need any import set also. To import set, you may group multiple invoices, and invoice type, whatever we are going to enter, say standard only. And legal entity, it's not mandatory. The reason, when you provide like a business unit, based on business unit, system can default the legal entity while system create the invoice. That also I'm not giving. And payment terms, okay, we'll go with the immediate payment term, but for we have to verify only one point, whether we have access to immediate payment term or not through our reference data set, which is assigned to our BU level, or set assignments. We have one step, set assignments, that level to payables payment terms. Okay, whatever the reference data set assigned, within that you should have access to payment terms, otherwise it will fail, we know that. Now term date we have to provide. I'll just copy and paste the same. The same you can paste here. Okay, accounting data also I'm taking in that format. Actually, reality, this format is wrong format, but just for testing we are taking. Payment method is check. Pay group, so let's go with the standard. And pay alone, instead of keeping null and all, you can put some value whether you want to pay alone. Pay alone means for each and every invoice, if you want to make the payment separately, we can do that. We don't need that option for this. Okay, and provide liability account code combination before we enter there, but we can go and check here. This system is defaulting the distribution set from the site. I'm going to remove to take the code combination. I just fill with something, some test. I'll make it empty so that distribution field will open. Here I can type some test. Company. I'm not creating invoice, just to take the information all I'm filling here. So here we need a liability account. Accounts payable. accounts payables. Okay, this account code combination we need in this spreadsheet. Taken. And document category code, no, I just remove that null value also, not required. If that value, that any column or field has a drop down option, then select any one of the value. Otherwise, if something is there null or some other test, you can remove it, so it won't create any issue. Even if you keep null also, there won't, you don't find any issue, but just not required that value, then null. And priority, this and something settlement priority, just I'll set to normal. And the payment reason code, not required. Payment reason comments, no, just null. Null means just you can remove that values. And here withholding tax group, okay, now when we don't want to calculate any withholding tax on this invoice, remove that. Yes, since these are the just drop down values, so make sure that some value is selected. But anyway, we are not going to calculate tax on this, so no. And invoice amount to tax, no. That's all. So this is invoice header section, so all the information we filled. After that, you can save it, save the changes what you did. Now we'll go to the lines. So before we go to the lines, invoice ID we given as 1234. Then go to AP invoice lines interface. The same, how many lines you are going to have, for all the lines should refer the same invoice ID. So 1234 I'm giving. And here invoice amount we given $2,500. Same amount I'm going to enter. And dollar optional. Final match, no, not required. Since drop down we are accepting that value. Otherwise, if it is null, simply you can remove it. Even if you keep in the same way, there won't be an issue. Now distribution combination, we know when we do this kind of conversions, we'll go with accounting logic. Here for that I'll be sorry, I'll be taking some kind of clearing account. Tables migration clearing account. I'll take this as a distribution which will be debited this invoice. So whatever the accounting logic, when you are doing the data conversion, what is the accounting logic you use to offset or reconcile? The same logic you can follow in the Fusion also. So in that you don't need to change any logics. Okay. So distribution set we are not going to provide. If you want to go with the distribution set, you can provide here, but generally it won't be required in this process. And accounting date, I'll copy from header section what are the accounting date format we have. So literally wrong format for our testing we are using. Ship to location, we don't want to set anything as a default. Withholding tax at line level, not required. These drop down values we can accept, no issues. Line group number and all you can remove, since this is a value, just you can remove this. Track as a set you can keep as no. You don't want to track this line as a set to interface to FA. Price correction line, no. Okay, that's all. Okay, this is how just you can prepare the header and lines information, then save it. Just save it. So that since we are saving, the same file will be available without any changes. Okay, later we can correct and you can do some other exercise. Okay, done. Now after all these inputs, generate CSV file. Go to instructions under CSV generation tab. Click on generate CSV file. So save into the same folder. The folder name is open invoice import. The system is generating the zip file, and for each tab it will create separate CSV. This is for AP invoice interface CSV, then save, and again AP invoice lines interface other CSV, save it. These two files will be saved into zip file. Two CSV files it will be generated, will be saved into zip file. On the other side you can see the same two files related information as two separate tabs. Okay, these are the two tabs where we fill the data. Based on these two tabs, what are the CSV files are generated and taken into zip file. The same files you can see as the separate tabs here. Okay, now if you save, these tabs also will remain in the spreadsheet. Otherwise, if you close this spreadsheet without saving, you don't see when you open next time. I'm going to save it. I want to keep these two also within the spreadsheet. There won't be an issue. Anytime you can remove it, not an issue. Just I'm saving. I saved it. Done. Okay. Now you can just close it. I'll just go and open this. So this is a file which we just downloaded and filled, and this is zip file system generated. Those two CSV files also you can find inside within the zip file only. Just you can double click, it will open. Here we have those two CSV files. These two CSV files we can load one time by using the zip file. Let's go and do that process. Okay, we'll talk about the process. These are the steps we discussed. The same we are going to follow. First we'll load
Hey,
into
Lakshman, question.
yeah.
Hey, so when there are IDs, right? IDs, how do we fill the details related to IDs there?
What do you
Because we
mean
don't
by
have
ID?
backend access.
Which ID?
Like, invoice ID, like asset category ID, invoice ID,
Come
all
on.
those IDs.
See, simple point. When you say invoice ID, you are not referring invoice which is exist in the system. You are going to create new invoice. That means you can give any ID. That ID will get stored in the database because that parameter is mandatory in the database. That's the reason we have that ID in the template itself. Don't refer system when you are loading that. This is a new invoice you are creating. Got the point?
But we have to ensure that it is unique, right?
You have, yes, you can keep unique ID. When when you are loading the large volume of the records and all, you just go with uniqueness because it's a one-time activity. You don't do on regular base. It's not end user job. Implementation time we'll do one time. Say I have a 10,000 records, 10,000 invoices. When I'm creating the 10,000 invoices, we'll speak with the user what to give that ID as a unique, or else we can just, that's how we'll be telling the same uniqueness will be following. That's it. They can give 1 2 3 4 5 up to 1,000. The actual sequence numbering also they can give for that. That's how we can. It's a manual activity. You have to give as a uniqueness only. But we don't need to refer with the system. Think before you load this information. There are no like similar uh, invoices and all. I mean with the same unique ID. So that since this is going to be data conversion activity, all invoices will be loading at one time, right? So you can just since all the records you are loading one time, you can go with the uniqueness of the records with that ID. Then you tell me, I'll ask you one question. In EBS, how do you do this ID, invoice ID? How you managed? Can you answer to my question?
I ensure that it's unique.
Using sequence
It's like
actually.
Sorry?
unique sequence, yes. We'll
Using
create a unique
sequence
sequence. And
Yeah, here also same. Here also same. Just here we'll be putting in this template, the same will take into the system.
what about asset category ID?
Sorry?
Maybe I'm asking. Asset category ID is there, right? That category I have to create prerequisite, right? It has to be created before. Then only I can use that category ID.
Yeah. Just the category IDs and all, normally you can give it to the business users saying that category name and ID you may specify and you can give to the users with the data. Okay. So when you give it to the what is the category, what is the ID for that, based on that, when they are providing the invoice information, by referring that they can enter into the system. In that case, such kind of things you can query and you can get it. but think you don't be having too many categories in that case. That too for very few invoices, wherever that invoice is related to asset invoices, then only that field, that parameter you have to enter. Okay, if that asset related invoice only, we require that asset category, right?
I have a question here,
Yeah.
Lakshman.
Yeah.
But why do we create asset invoices when we are doing the conversion? Why do we create a duplicate assets? Because that asset conversion means that asset already must be created in the system.
Yes, definitely. See, if you want to provide for some invoice for reference purpose, in that case, just for that, it's not like to create and to move into that system. Okay, just for information tracking and all, already done in the sense, nothing wrong with that. Just if you want to track some information here, you can do in that way. Here we have that column they given just for to provide some reference information. Even track as asset field also they given, right? See, you may be having situation why they given, say you didn't create any asset in the fixed assets. Now this is the time just you procure some asset and all. Still, mass addition process is pending as per your system. In that case, directly you may, by the time you not yet created any asset against that activity, you take that invoice into payables as a open invoice only. From payables, you can move to fixed assets. In that case, that kind of parameters you can use. If applicable, you will be using. It's not mandatory. We will provide, right? We know that. So that is a point where we have that.
Lakshman, just to share knowledge,
Yeah.
Invoice type as expense account, we can create assets through payables also at times, invoices. We need not have asset to be created in fixed assets first and do an invoice. During invoice also we can create an asset.
Sorry.
Hello.
What?
During invoices, my knowledge as per this tracking asset ID experience. So like we create as expense type of invoice and we create an asset here. And these assets are loaded through programs to fixed assets.
Yeah. Yes. We can do that with even expense account also. You can do that. You have to track as asset, then it will take. And in normal cases,
I was just trying to extend knowledge to my friends. We need not create first fixed assets, then we have to come invoice.
No.
Through invoice also we can create fixed assets.
No. See, please don't take that point in that way. Nobody is saying invoice we have to create first in the FA. Okay, normally the point somebody was raising anyway, we'll be having assets in FA. Why again for the assets whatever already we created? Why we should have invoice within the invoice that parameters? I think that is the point. Yeah, just your statement is correct. If already invoice is not created in FA, in that case, while you are loading, you may input all these parameters, which will be helpful for us to track that information to FA. So in that case only it is applicable. Otherwise, we don't use it. Yeah. See, simple that whatever the logic we have in EBS, same logic will work because of this load process and all. We are not going to see some additional logic, etc.
Yeah, Lakshman, that field will be available in AP invoice lines.
Yes, exactly.
Track as asset.
Yes. Lines level.
The next tab.
Yeah, yes, correct. Okay. Fine. Okay, I'm searching in the header level, right at the line level. You can see. Yeah, this is the one track as I said. So that depending on like if required that open invoice, so whatever the invoice you are loading, that invoice still not yet created in your system as a set, to move from AP to FA, we can use it track as a set. Then you will be taken into the system. Maybe if required, these fields will be filling depending on the case of what is the properties of that invoice. So anyway, this is how we'll be filling, but in this template intentionally we taken the date format wrong. Okay, so that we can understand where you can see that issues and how to correct and how to load. We can understand the process. We're done with that, and based on this template only we created this zip file also. Now this zip file we are going to load into UCM. To load into UCM, okay, just go to navigator. So under tools we have a task called as file import and export. Then just click on upload. choose that file, open invoice import. This is the zip file we have to select, and select where this zip file should sit into this UCM, which account. So the account name is Financials Payables Import. When you say payables, that refers invoices. Click on save and close. Okay, done. And now next step is, as we mentioned here, okay, just we downloaded, we're done with that. Now load into UCM, then populate the data into interface tables. For that we have a job to submit. Just go to schedule process, go to navigator, under tools we have a schedule process task. Click on that. Click on schedule new process. Type any random test, it will open pop-up. Here you can search for job called as load interface file for import. So this is a job you have to submit, load interface file for import. Just say okay. This is the purpose of the file. So transfer setup or transaction data files from a user specified location in the interface tables. Now in the current scenario, earlier whenever we did the transfer for supplier, that you can think as setup data. Now this is invoices data, so transaction data. Now we are using this same job to load the transaction data file. Say fine, okay. So select process name. So we want to populate payables invoices. So relevant process we can select, that is nothing but import payables invoices. You want to import the payables invoices into interface. You want to populate the payables invoice interfaces from which file? The file which is there in the UCM. That file you have to select. So in this file we have invoices. That invoice information you want to populate into interface. Select, then click on submit. Since in this file, okay, we load into UCM, but there won't be any validation. But when you're trying to populate into interface, okay, there are certain validations. But for each and every data, the correct data or not, there are no validations. For specific parameters, we have some validation. Primarily in this process, I want to take example as date format. When you're trying to load the data into interface tables, payables open invoice interface tables, there is some validation for date format. Because of that, it is ending with error and warnings. I'll go to this. These two files will be referring. One is invoice interface. This other one is invoice lines. You can select any one of these. Just click on this where you see the warning. Scroll little down. Here it is generating the files. You can click on this. This is the one file. This is the second file. One more we have. Total two files are generated. Click on this. And here it will generate the log file. You can click on the log file. It will get downloaded. Open this. Just search with error, because actual program is errored out. These two programs system is showing as a warning. Search with for error. Here you can see the rejection reason. Okay, rejected. Error on table AP invoices. Sorry. Okay, the reason you can see here. Error on table AP invoice interface. Column name is invoice date. The invoice date, there is some issue. It is saying not a valid month. So the same time Oracle just giving one point here, the global attribute date format should be in this format: year, month and date. But reality in the system, whatever the format we are using, that is month, date and year. This is the format we are using when we are creating invoice or any kind of transaction. This is the system point of view. But interface level, they given this global format, global attribute format as a year, month and date. If you take in this format, whatever as per your preference, whatever the date format you are using within the system, this format can get converted into that format whatever we are using based on your preference. Okay, so this is a format you should have in the that file, then only it will accept. Ultimately this format will get converted into what is the actual format you are using in your system process. So year, month and date, let's go and change the format in the template level. So now I'll just go and open the template. So now we don't require this zip file, because within the zip file what are the CSVs we have, within that also we have a same date format which we given intentionally wrong format. Delete it. I'm deleting. Now open this template, in which template we have a data, and these two CSV file based sheets also you can delete. Delete this and delete this lines related tab also. Done. Now go to this invoice interface header section, and wherever you have date, that you can give the, which will match with the global attribute date format. So here you can just right click, say format cell, go to custom, here we have a, this is a format system is expecting, the same you can take, say okay. The same format you apply for other columns which require date format, dates, term date also I'm just copying to the same. Okay, done. So just save it. The same format, even line level also we have a date, right? Accounting date. So here also just update the same, then save it. I think that's all. We don't have any other fields to specify this date and the format, nothing. Okay, now you can generate the CSV file based on this corrected information. You can generate, go to instructions on the CSV generation, then click on generate CSV file. So in the same folder we want to save, say yes, and the CSV file it is generating, say save, again say save, then you can save it, so that these two tabs also will get saved within the file. Save it. Now again we have to do this process. Instead of loading into UCM, we know directly while you are submitting this load interface file for import, from here also we can submit to UCM. From that UCM file it will get selected to this process. Okay, just instead of loading into UCM as a separate step, I am going to do from here on. See, sometimes it won't function directly if you try from here. I'll refresh this. So if you want to load into UCM and if you want to submit this program, you can do it, or else you can ignore the submitting file into UCM as separate activity. In this process only you can submit and you can select. Type some random text, and here the job name is load interface. Select this job, say okay, then click on OK. So your process name is import payables invoices. Okay, and select data file. So we don't have any data file in UCM. So directly from here you can load into UCM the same file we can select as a parameter for this job. Let's go with the upload a new file and select here. This upload will load that file into UCM only. And when you are loading the file into UCM, we have to give the account. Based on this import process, what you selected, automatically will take into respective account. Say okay. It is loading into UCM. Then now after loading, it will select as a parameter. So that's the reason it is taking time. Now you can click on submit. Say okay. Since we corrected date format, now it should end with complete status without any warnings or errors. Now you can see the 4 jobs ended the state with the status called as succeeded. Okay, done. Now think data is available in the interface. The next step is we have to import the data into base tables. Okay, so just go and submit the job here. So if you try with this, immediately it may not work here. When you go and click on submit function won't work. Okay, that is the reason just I'm refreshing this page. Okay, so your job name is import payables invoices. Select job as a import payables invoices and say okay. So what is the purpose of that? It creates Oracle Fusion payable invoices from invoice data in the open invoice interface. Whatever the data we have in the payables open invoice interface, from there it will this program will fetch the data and it will create the invoices in base tables. And say okay. Then select your business unit. Okay, Fusion US business unit. And this parameter, this source is very much important. So spreadsheet level, whatever the source we have, the same source we have to select. Okay, spreadsheet level we give an external source. If you notice, same source we have to select to fetch that. So here we give an external. So make sure that here parameter also are selecting the external only. By default, system will take spreadsheet. So here we have a external source. Done. And here we have options. Okay, so now data is available in the interface. We are trying to import into base tables. Based on this activity, you want to purge the data or not. If you set to yes, the data will be purged. Okay, I don't want to purge and leave in the same way. So then click on submit. Now this job will import the invoice information into base tables. Just click on close and just monitor this job. Okay, then here system generated file report also import payable invoices report. You select it here below. You can see the output file in the PDF format. Here, just this is the output file. You can click on this hyperlink. So payables open interface import report. The parameters are already given. That's just specifying. And here you can see that as invoice is imported. Payables open interface audit report says you just imported an invoice with this number, with this supplier, with this amount, all the information. And if you go with the rejection reasons, you don't find anything. Payables open interface import report. There are no other some rejections are found. So no data found for rejections report. There's nothing because only one invoice we have that got imported. If there are any rejections, how to handle that I'll be showing. First we'll go and see this invoice in the system, then I'll take you through that process. Now you can go to the invoice workbench to find that invoice. One second. What is the invoice number? Fusion US1. Okay. Go to manage invoices task. Select your business unit. Give invoice number as Fusion US1. So this is invoice we imported by using FBDI process. And click on invoice number. Go to actions, click on edit, all options will be open. Now you can go with the standard process. Just you can validate this invoice. Just validate it. If you want the account and transfer to GLS, you can do that. So accounting is completed. You can see validate and accounting. That's all. Okay. Here in this process, I just given 2 points to understand how we have to handle the errors. One is wrong date format I given, and later we found that issue through log file. That same we corrected and we loaded. Now I'll take the wrong supplier into this load process for one invoice. Then how system will display how we can correct it. We'll see that. Okay. Now we'll go with the wrong supplier. We're done with that. This is the process. Now I'm going with a different scenario. What I'll do is I'll reuse the same template. For that I'll remove this, delete the zip file, and I'll open this. And anyway, these CSV based file formats are not required for us, so I'm deleting from the same template since we are going to do some changes. Then save it. Done. So now what is our target? I want to load the invoice information for a testing, for understanding purpose. If there is some wrong supplier information, a wrong site, or whatever the information is available already in the instance which will support this invoice creation. Okay, if something is wrong, it can be, say, I can take example, it may be wrong business unit. Okay, invoice number, it's virtual, it will generate, and it can be wrong supplier site, it can be wrong supplier number, and wrong suppliers. Here I'll say it may be wrong invoice type is a drop down value, you cannot give it. Wrong payment term. This kind of, when you are creating invoice, will be selecting from existed values. That sort of information, if you enter wrong in this spreadsheet, how that situation can be handled, we'll see now. For our testing purpose, what I'll do is I'll just go with this invoice. I'll say 100. We don't have any supplier with supplier 100, right? Fusion supplier 100, but I'm giving, just intentionally I'm giving this. Okay, here I'll say 2 3 4 5 invoice ID, same ID, 2 3 4 5 I'll be giving. And to, like invoice number should be unique, so I'll take care of that part here. Invoice number Fusion US2, that's all. Say this is an invoice record, we have this information we want to load into system, but think like we are not sure whether this supplier invoice supplier information exists or not. We are assuming supplier information there in the system, we are trying to load it. Let's see what will happen, how this process will work, how we can go and correct, how we can load, how we can resume that process. Okay, just save these changes. Okay, save these changes. Now based on this information, generate CSV file. Just save into the same file folder, save and save. You can save this sheet. Okay, done. Now you can close it. Now first we'll load into UCM, or else directly through load process you can take into the process, anything you can do. Just now we did that process, now we'll go with the UCM process. Any file you load into UCM, no validations, it will accept, okay, without any data validations. Load into this, select account as a, sorry, fin payables import, then click on save and close. We load into UCM. Now we'll try to populate this data into open invoice interface. Just for interaction, just for to have some chart, I am asking this question. Now I'll try to import into I'll try to populate in the interface whether the system will fail the record or not, because we have wrong supplier. Anyone can answer. It's not a great and big question, it's a simple thing, just to keep some interaction in the session. I am asking, it will fail or pass?
It will fail for sure, because the supplier is not existing probably.
Okay, any other questions, any other answers?
Not this stage actually. When you try to import it, that time it will fail.
Exactly, that is the point I want to make it clear to everyone. That's the reason I'm taking this case. Okay, so when we are loading into interface, in the interface there is no connectivity with the base tables, so there is no validation. Interface data cannot be directly validated to the base tables. Only interface level, what system will see, what are the mandatory fields are there, the fields are filled with this record or not, through this record the data is there or not. If the proper fields information is available, it will accept, doesn't matter it's a valid supplier or valid business unit or valid site or something else, it will accept. But when you try to import into base tables, then it will fail. Okay, just I want to make it more clear on this point only. Anyway, we want to see that case, how it works and all. That's the reason I'm taking through this process example. Okay, now I'll import into interface, I'll populate in interface. It won't fail, it will accept. So here, same process, same job name, click on search. So we are just populating that file data into interface. The interface level, it will verify the mandatory fields with respect to data is available or not. It won't look for a dependency whether the value is exist in the database or not. So process name is, or say job name is, import payables invoices data file, then submit. Okay, then close it. So this information will be populated in the interface without any issues. But in the file, if anything wrong with the date format and all, it will fail. Already we have seen in earlier example. Okay, date format wise, there is a proper validation in the interface level. Okay, but not related to BUs or supplier invoices and all. So the status is succeeded. That means information is there in the interface now. When you try to import into base tables, then system will go with the each and every field related validation with the system data. I mean base tables wherever the information should be referred, matched. Okay, now we'll submit that program. It will end with the error. I'll just refresh immediately. If you are submitting, it may not work. Sometimes that submit function won't work if you are doing immediate base. So that's the reason I'm just refreshing this page.
Lakshman,
Yeah,
I have one straight question.
please.
Okay. Okay. Once we load all this data into this interface table, okay, can we develop any kind of BI report to pull all the invalid data? Like as we can write some kind of SQL.
Not required. Not
There
required.
can
No. 1 second. 1 second. Not required. The report system will generate. We can see now. We are going to see that.
Okay.
Yep.
But it takes a long time, right?
No. Nothing. Simple process. It can be large volume of the data. Simply, just system will generate the reports with the reasons also
Okay.
that they developed.
Okay.
Yeah. So now say import payables. See, the report is there. Seated report is there. We'll see that. If you are talking, if that is different from that, means we can discuss on that. Say okay. So then submit this. Now this program should fail. So provide these parameters. So Fusion US Business Unit and source, whatever we have in the spreadsheet is external. Select the same. Then say submit. Then close it. Refresh it. Now it will do that base table related validation with this data. Okay, don't think it is done. You have to see the report output. There you can find error. The process is completed. The import process system submitted, that is completed, and just a report also generated. Go to the report section. There you can see what's wrong with this. But basically, if that is the case, even Oracle should give that status as error, but they are not giving. I don't know the good reason. So here, go there. You can see that payables open interface import report, no data found, or audit report. That means there is no valid invoice which is imported, but you can see that in the rejections. So payables open interface rejection report. This is invoice number, and reason is invalid supplier. Invalid supplier. Okay. Now you no need to go back to the spreadsheet and all. Directly on the live in the live environment, you can go and correct that. From there you can submit. Again, you no need to come here to submit payables invoice import. That's how we have a function. We'll go and do that. Only the problem with the supplier, invalid supplier. We'll go and correct it. From in this scenario, if data struck in the interface table where we are not able to import because the data is not valid, something wrong, okay, whatever parameter is wrong, whatever the column information is wrong, system will be giving the information here. There can be a number of records, supply invoice wise it will be giving. Somebody was asking the same question, I guess. So for each and how many invoices we have, for each and every invoice, what's wrong, that reason, if required it will provide the description. In this case, the simple reason, invalid supplier, that information is more than enough. The description may not be required for this kind of issues. Okay, this is how it will generate the report. When you see this kind of issue where interface level, what are the data we have, something wrong with that, directly you can access the data which is there in the interface and you can correct from front end, that you can submit from then and there. Let's go and see that process. Go to invoice workbench. Okay, then go to this task panel. Here we have a task called as correct import errors. Click on this task. It will export all those interface errors into spreadsheet. It can be any BU related, anything. Okay, all whatever we have in our system it will export. Just click on that open spreadsheet and it's asking us to connect, say yes, and log into this, provide login credentials so that this user specific privileges it will display. Say Fusion Hyderabad. Ignore it. This is spreadsheet. Here you can see whatever you have seen in the rejection reason, the reason you can see in this spreadsheet, and on the fly you can correct and you can import. You no need to go back to that FPDA template to correct again, to load into UCM again, you submitting into interface, from there importing into base table. This very standard process, you don't need to follow. Simply you can, this stage there is some issue here itself, you can correct and you can proceed. You can see here the invoice header level and all reasons. This is invoice header and this is invoice line level. So you can see our issue here, invalid supplier for our business unit. Now here scroll little right here, this is invoice number, this is invoice supplier, something wrong with the supplier, that is a message, so I'll correct it. Double click, it will connect to your supplier database. Find your existing supplier only from here. Fusion supplier 2, search. Sorry, 2, right? 1, it's we merged, it won't work. Search 2. Say okay. This level only we just corrected. Sorry. Now you can say save and submit invoice import. From here you can submit. And if you are correcting multiple records, say you corrected multiple records, whatever you corrected may be something wrong again within that. In that case, on failure, if one, or say you corrected 10 records, your target is 10 you want to import, but now you are submitting again within the 10, 1 or 2 may be wrong. In that case, on failure of one or a few records, we want to continue uploading the subsequent rows. Yes, say okay. If 1 or 2 wrong, let system stop those records only, not everything. So the number of records updated is 1. Say okay, it will ask us to import by providing the relevant parameters. So now here you can specify the business unit and source name also. Source name. So now source is data is their interface, but interface data is imported from external source, which is there in our spreadsheet. That same parameter you have to select. Now here by default system is selecting as a purge yes. If you want to accept the same, okay, or else set to no. It won't purge from the interface. then say submit. Say okay. Now this invoice will be imported to base tables. It will run the program also. It will submit the same import program. There you can go and see. So one has corrected and to load it into the system. How many records are loaded, you can see that. It's running now. Succeeded status. You can go to this and see the output. Let me do one thing. It's maximize. One second. Just click on that. I'll just download it and stop playing with that all the ways. So payable open invoice interface audit report. Okay. No, not this one. I think I selected wrong one. Which one I selected? Oh, I selected wrong. This is the report I have to select. The previous report I selected. Download. Okay, if you see here, you can see total invoices processed 1. Total invoices imported 1. Done. So this is how just you can find the information. Now you can go and find this invoice in the system. So go to invoices. So earlier whatever the invoice we loaded, that is Fusion US1. Now just now where the supplier information wrong and all that invoice number Fusion US2, and we corrected and loaded. We'll go and check it. Sorry. So manage invoices. Fusion US2. You should find that invoice here now. So this is invoice. We corrected supplier information, so we are able to load it into the system. I mean to say base tables. Once you click on edit, all invoice actions will be open. Okay, now you can submit for validation. Post to ledger. So that's all. That's all about loading the open invoices and all. Hope the process is very clear to everyone. If you have any questions on this, you can ask me. Okay, not an issue. Even if the point is out of my knowledge, also I'll try to get the information for you based on your question. Okay, any questions on this? I think somebody was asking some custom report development when data is there in the interface level. This is what we are expecting, whatever we have seen, or something else. Please.
Lakshman, Tarun here. I have one question.
Yeah, correct.
In case of vast amount of data, suppose 10,000 records, usually we take help of technical consultant. In this case, how a functional consultant he has any tools to correct at a time the 10,000 records or any way for it?
Sin, so I think you just didn't attend previous session. That's the reason you are asking this. You can
Yes,
mute
yes, I'm sorry.
you. Yeah, you can mute. You can mute from you. Just I'll explain. Yeah, thanks. Because don't mind, like, because if you're not muting, I can hear some noise from your end. That's the reason I requested. Fine. See that process clearly we discussed. In case of EBS, yes, technical resource support is required. Everything will be loading through that custom process. But here, that process Oracle given to do in very functional way. So we don't. You may have bulk volume of the record. So simple. This template, what is the template we have seen just now? This template, give it to the business users. They'll fill the data and you load it. That's it. No technical resource required to do this activity in the Fusion. Tarun, did I answer your question?
I understand, but I think if it like okay, business user, sometimes they expect the consultant to perform it. Suppose bad data something is there which you can do in a quick process. If you give business user, again it depends upon the priority of his time and his work activities.
No.
So in the meanwhile, like
let me ask one question. Let me ask one question. In your experience, what is the process you followed or you have seen to collect the master data, transactional data from the legacy? What process you have seen?
okay,
How you got the data into templates, data templates? How did you get the data?
I understand that thing.
No.
Few minor
Simple.
corrections.
No. Simple point. Let me please, if you don't mind, you can answer to my question. You worked in the implementation project. What practice you have seen? We prepare the template. We'll give to the business users, and or else what practice you have seen in your experience? Please answer straight away. Then we can talk on this if required.
We usually give it to the business user for data correction.
Data
But, I'm
collection.
asking.
Here also same we'll do that. Here also same we'll do that. If you want to fetch the data from legacy, okay, in EBS also the technical people write a lot of programming and all. There will be some just extract programs they'll be writing instead of taking in from the their legacy database and all. And here also you can just write the programs and all that is outside of the system to fill these templates by connecting with their legacy. But in terms of loading into the system, this is a process we'll follow. Okay, there are ongoing. If you want to load this process, I mean, if you want to do this kind of activity ongoing for day-to-day business transaction data also into the system, for that we have separate process. When we are talking about interfaces, how the integration can be done with the third party, at the time I'll explain that process. But data conversion, this is a process we have in the system. In case of EBS, we'll collect and we'll load, but here the same process we have to collect from the business users only. To loading, this is a process. You don't need to go with the technical team where they'll write validations, they'll load into the staging tables, and finally we'll take into that. This is how simplified. Yeah, if you have still questions, you can ask me.
I think you told me that you'll be explaining third-party integrations. I think I'll get my doubts clear there and that.
See, simple point. Third party integration totally different. You don't compare with this. This is a data conversion one-time activity. In EBS, you know the process. In Fusion, this is the process we have to do. So data conversions we don't do in ongoing as an ongoing process. The daily based transactions you can do that, you can understand in the integrations. But when you talk about data conversion, only these are the points you have to understand. On data conversion point of view, if you have any questions, you can ask me now only.
This is okay.
Yeah, fine, thanks. So any other questions on this, please?
Lakshman,
Yeah.
some people are talking about some kind of accelerators to do some kind of revalidations.
Sorry?
It goes under the integration part, some kind of accelerators.
Accelerators? What accelerators? Can you just light on that so that I can talk if I am aware of?
It means that they will do all the pre kind of validations actually instead of for the large volume of data and minimizing the timing actually. That's what people are talking right now. I'm
Okay.
not sure
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
That's what I have.
yeah. I know about it. I can talk on that. Yeah. You can, if you don't mind, you can mute, please. Yeah. Please don't mind. I'm asking everyone when they're speaking after stopping. But please remember, once you just give your question to me, you can mute so that I can start from my end. Only the reason is we are recording these sessions. everything will get recorded to that. I don't want to keep that kind of disturbance in this. Okay, I'm not saying from your end I'm getting and all, but just I'm putting request to everyone. Fine, done. So when I talk about accelerator, that is a complete different solution. Okay, that is a completely different solution. Since this information may be useful for all others also, that's the reason. Let me take just 5 minutes time on this. Okay, 5 minutes. When you talk about accelerators, okay, this is a different kind of solution available from Oracle. Okay, accelerators. What is the purpose of accelerators? To do implementation and fast track. Sorry, here no problem with the keyboard. If you want to do implementation and fast track, or call it as rapid implementation, in this case Oracle will provide the tools. Say for example, your requirement is implementing the financials. You are running the business in India, or say US. You are running the business US. You want to implement financials. When you want to implement financials, and when you are belongs to some country, it definitely will belongs to so and so vertical of business, some industry. What Oracle is doing is Oracle has country and industry specific solutions through accelerators offering. Okay, so country and industry specific offerings you have. Say you are just say like you are running the business in US, and you are into say IT services. Okay, IT services. So because I'm not saying for all vertical of all industries solution is available from Oracle. As per my knowledge, till this date, from Oracle, for the accelerator solutions, this rapid implementation approach is not available for all the industries. Very specific industries, that too in specific countries only available. But I'm taking example as IT services. You are running the business in US, and you are doing the business. You are into IT services. Now you want to go with the implementation. You want to implement Oracle financials and procurement. Okay, your scope of implementation is financials and procurement. Okay, financials and procurement. So when you talk about this financials and procurement, now you can contact Oracle, and especially that accelerators division in Oracle. Okay, I think there is some division name also. I think the division name you call as OMAP. Okay, Oracle mid-size application practices. Okay, mid-size industry application practices. Okay, that is a division. As I remember the name, I'm not very sure that as per my knowledge that is a division name, and I'm not sure whether they got changed recently into some other naming convention or not. But there is a practice at Oracle I know very well. So if you are running the business in US, you are going to your business into IT services, and you want to implement financial and procurement. When you give this input information to Oracle, what they'll do, okay, they'll give you one tool for you, tool which is an online tool. Okay, if you just this tool you have to run it. If you run the tool, when before running the tool, this tool will be targeting with instance, fresh instance. Okay, it can be released 12 hour fusion, say fusion instance, since we are talking about fusion. The tool they'll be giving, what Oracle do is, we're running the business in US and IT services. For IT services kind of companies, the companies which are providing IT services, especially in US, what kind of normal standard business process they'll follow by including the taxation. US means country specific taxation we have, right? In US, if some company is doing the IT services, what would be the very generic business process they follow, and what requirements they may have, all they predefined and they'll configure in the tool. They'll do the coding through the tool. Once you run this tool, what the tool will do is the tool will configure this Fusion instance automatically. Okay, it's not like you no need to take the requirement. It is like you no need to take the requirement. So you are running the business in US and IT services means, say this, if you run this tool, automatically your system will be configured. Generally IT services company, what kind of business process they follow, according to that all the, what I can say, mm, all the system configuration would be done. Before that, in the tool, what we have to do is you have to provide some setup data. In the tool level only, you have to provide setup data. What are the business units we have and what are the payment terms we have. You don't need to directly go and do the configuration in the instance environment. The setup data you can provide in the tool, and you can run the tool by using the setup data. What are the generic business processes this IT organization required, and some information set up for predefined information required, and taxation related configuration, everything will done on the fly. This tool, if you start running now, it may take hardly just say like 1 day time. That means in 1 day time for IT services company, you can complete the implementation. And there could be some additional setups which you have to do after running this tool. When you run this tool may do the setups for maybe 90% of system configuration automatically, maybe within 1 day or less than that day, 1 day, based on how much setup data you have. After 1 day, within 1 day, setups will be completed. Maybe after that, post implementation setups you can complete. Post implementation setups you can complete after completing this run, tool run, accelerators tool you call it. Okay, once you run it, you can you have to do post implementation setups which cannot be handled by this tool. Okay, that you have to do as a post implementation setups. After doing that, if you have some additional requirement also, manually you can do the setups in that environment. Then from there you can proceed with the using that system. Okay, but again, once you're done with that, this load open invoices and master data and all, you have to go with this practice what just now we have seen as FBDA. Only this tool will help you to do the system configuration, nothing else more than that. If you have any question on this, let me know. But I don't see this is uh, succeeded in the market as Oracle expected, but still few companies are trying with this sort of solutions. I don't see many companies. If you have any question, I don't know who asked this question. Hope this information is useful for others also. That's the reason just I thought of explaining this complete simple points. I don't know who asked this question. May know like who raised this point.
Sarath. Yes, Sarath.
Yeah, Sharad, did I answer your question or something else you want to understand? Let me know.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah, thanks. Fine. Any other questions on this FPDA process? And one more point, that if you understand this process, the same logic is applicable for any applications. If you are going to load the customer's information receivables or open transaction information receivables, same process. Process remains same. Template and data will get changed. That's it. Any questions? Please no. Okay, seems to no questions. Then we'll jump into the next concept. So I'm just going to close it. Fine. We'll see what are the pending concepts before we jump into the reporting related. So we completed these two. Okay, I think time is already 8:47. Just around 10 minutes are left. If I take this concept called as withholding, again it takes some time. You cannot complete setups and do the process within 10 to 15 minutes time. So we have time for that. What I'll do is I'll show you some other point, some other concept. What I'll show you is, okay, we don't have enough time to cover this concept today. I'll take this concept in tomorrow's session. So since we have some time availability, what I'll do is I'll show you one simple point. We know in EBS, okay, when you have access to multiple operating nets, okay, multiple operating nets, you can set default operating net, right? We can set default operator. When user has access to multiple operating from single responsibility, the responsibility level you can set default operating rate by using profile option called as mo default operating unit. So the similar practice is applicable in Fusion also. Here, now since we are using the reference data set common set, we are able to access to all the business units. If you see here, the same we know that, but just I'm going to show before I just talk about this. So if you go to create invoices page here, if you click on this drop down, you can see all the invoices. The meaning is we are able to see all these invoices. All these business units are used as the same reference data set, that is nothing but common set. That means all these BUs are grouped into that common set. We have access to common set through our business unit. That is the reason we are able to see. But anyway, we are not going to work on all these business units. We require only this Fusion US business unit, or else you may require access to all. But primarily, you need access to Fusion US business unit. We already gone through that concept called as MOSC security profile to understand how to restrict and all. Other option is security profile. Other option is reference data set. Already we discussed. But if you want to set one BU as a default, whenever you open this invoice page, system has to just it has to select. It should appear like this. I don't want to go and select. That means I want to set business unit as default. That is possible in Fusion also by using the profile options. Yes, in Fusion also we have profile options, no doubt. The usage drastically reduced. Like when you are creating the BUs or primary ledgers, nowhere use the profile option, because roles concept they introduced where the roles, the set of like I mean to say business units or primary ledgers get assigned to respective roles automatically. That is the reason manually you don't need to do through profile options. But now we'll go and see that how to where you can see the profile options, and we'll go with the example of setting up default business unit. Okay, default business unit. Now we'll see how to set. Okay, so set default business unit. We'll go and set default business unit. When you talk about EBS, you can set default business unit at generally operating it. Generally will set at responsible level. That is general practice, but other options also available. But in Fusion, you can set the default business unit only user level. Okay, it's user level only you can set the default business unit. We'll go and do it now. Cancel it. Go to function setup manager, FSM, setup and maintenance. See, these are common tasks for any application or any offering. This same logic will be using. So you don't try for this task within your project. Go with a open task which is outside of the project. Okay. So there will be there is one task to set the profile options. I think like administrators profiles. I don't remember exact name. Administrators profile values or something. I'll just search for that. Administrator profile. Just search with the term. You can see that name. Administrator or administrators. I don't remember exactly. Yep, administrators only, fine. So the actual task name is manage administrator profile values. Click on this task. Okay, this is the page where you can set the profiles values to respective profile options. Okay, now the profile name is what is our profile, which profile you want to set, a default business unit. Okay, here you can search for it, profile display name. Okay, when you go with the profile option code, it will be in the code and underscores etc. Don't try with that option. Anything you are searching, search from here. So profile display name I am giving as a default business unit. Okay, the task name is manage administrator profile values. Okay, and here you can go with the profile display name as default business unit. If you want to filter module wise and application, here there is no big difference between the application and module. The same you can see here. Okay, here you can take payables, and the same here module also will be coming as a payables. For some specific classifications, okay, they given that where within the application they can have some sub classification as a common data etc. For that you don't take that meaning is not required. Okay, that is also not required directly. If you can give the proper name, that is enough. Click on search. Okay, default business unit, that is the name. So here we can see this is a profile option code, basically profile, normally in profile option name, that is here, just you can see as a code default underscore org id. We know org id always in EBS or anywhere will refer BU, organization ID will refer inventory, we know that. So on that base they given that. So display name is this is the one. Now here by using this profile, so for many users already other guys seems to set BUs as a default. I think these all are which BUs, vision BUs. Okay, all are vision BUs only. They're set as defaults, not by some guys who are practicing. Okay, if you want to set this profile for our user value, just click on new. Okay, the profile level would be only user. You cannot go with any other option. Only user value. User level only you can set. Select that profile level as a user, and you want to set for which user. Select your user. The current user which you are using is Fusion. Select that Fusion user.
Lakshman, one question.
Please.
Yeah, like if we are setting at the user level, let's say one user has multiple roles of different business units.
Sorry.
Then how it? If a user has multiple roles,
Multiple roles.
he has a different roles, like two payables.
Okay.
One is like US and one is India. So the business unit may be different.
It's applicable. Okay. Okay. Okay, fine. So yeah. So in that case, user level you are setting. Say for example, you have BU1 and BU2. So user have access to payables for BU1. For BU2, it has access to receivables. In that case, if you set at user level, you are setting a default as a 1 BU. If you go to that user, okay, if you go to that payables, so payables you have access to BU1, right? If the BU1 will get defaulted. If you go to receivables, even if you set at a user level that business unit, it because that is not applicable, it won't take into consideration. That's how it works. If it is applicable, it will default in the relevant function. Otherwise, it will ignore. Yeah, tell me.
No, both BUs he has payables access.
One you will be setting as default. You cannot set multiple, right?
Yeah, means
that is the logic.
Okay.
See, in EBS also you have access to 10 BUs. Okay, but one you want to set as default. Whenever you open the form, most of the time which BU you require for transaction entry, that you will be setting as default. That is the meaning of default. One.
Because there we set the responsibility level.
Yeah. Here, instead of responsible user you are setting. Okay. Instead of responsibility, here we are setting user. Here there is no responsibility concept. If you set for role level, data role level, that is applicable for only one, because one user can have 10 data roles. Instead of setting 10 times for 10 roles, just simplified, setting at user level, the same will be applicable for all the roles. That's it. Take in that way. Fine, just select that user, say OK, and select profile value as your business unit. Where we have that? Here we have Fusion US business unit. A clear, right? The point is clear or not? Just tell me. Something else we have, just will discuss if possible.
I think I'm not understanding the purpose they provided this one.
Why? What is the purpose they provided in EBS? Could you please tell me?
No, in EBS, like what the general concept we are used to is like we set at the responsibility level.
No, forget about responsibility. No, one second. I'll come to that point. Forget about responsibility. Tell me what is the purpose in EBS?
So just to default.
Just to default. Here also, just to default. And what is your concern?
No, when we set at the responsibility level, it's not it's like two ways: to default and to make sure the transactions are happening in the specific operating unit.
No, not like that. Transactions are happening in the specific, it won't work in that way. When you go to that responsibility, you assign to payables responsibility. When you go and open the payables invoice workbench, that too if you have multiple OUs access, if you go to that, it will default. It's not like to make sure that transactions are happening with that operating net. That won't make any sense. Okay, just to default.
So you're saying like just to default as a
Just
convenience.
default for convenience, user convenience. Otherwise, user every time. I am the user. I am working for BU1. I have access to 2, 3, 4, 5 BUs also. Say operating it as per R12. I am recording the invoices every time for BU1. When I am recording for BU1, if I don't have default, if I am entering 10 invoices, 10 times I have to select, I have to click on LOV, I have to search for that operating it, I have to select 10 times. It's time consuming, time taking. So that is the reason I'll set as default. If I'm going to enter for BU1, I no need to select BU1, it will work. If at all I'm going to work, create invoice for BU2, in that case I'll override. That's it. The same logic here they given. Now here we are not going to see the great advantage. We are not going to control anything. Frankly speaking, it's not like to make sure that transactions are entering to that, not the meaning. So just instead of you go and select, system will select for you. Okay, one as default. If you want to record the invoices with that, enter. Otherwise, override and you enter. That's it. There is no other functionality behind it, but this default will work in some scenarios where if you don't set, if you have access to multiple business units or as per R12 multiple operating units, when you are doing certain kind of process or setups, since default is not there, some functions won't work also. There will be some dependence. System will lack with understanding for which BU the setup is going to be performed or which operator is going to be performed. That is the reason. But in the future you don't see. But I have experience in R12. If you don't set that, take simple example. You have a multiple BUs access. Sorry, multiple operator access. If you don't set default operating net for purchasing responsibility, when you are creating the PO, you may select through LOV, particular operating net, but when you're trying to save it, it will throw some error message. Until unless you set default operating net for a PO creation, it won't work. Okay, but here in Fusion, you don't see that kind of issues. It will work. That's it. Only just do default. That's it. Okay, there is no other meaning in that. Yeah,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Thanks, Lakshman.
Yeah, thanks. But in case of EBS, we are setting responsibility. Only that is applicable for responsibility, but they're given here user level. Under that user, okay, which data roles have access to this BU? For all those BUs related activities, that will get defaulted. It's better than that, I can say. Here responsibility concept also we don't have, but if they want to give solution as same as EBS, they should have given at role level. Okay, role level. Why they are not giving the role level? The reason also is there. The same role can be assigned to multiple users, but multiple users can have multiple different preferences. So role can be just same through that role they might be accessing to multiple BUs. In that case, the preference can be different. So instead of creating that kind of discrepancy, they're given at simply user level. User can have their preference to work for a specific BU generally. That's the reason they're given at user level. Fine. Anyway, just this is a process we have to follow. Just this is how with this value you can query and you can search and set profile level as a user and select username Fusion and profile values. This is a business unit. I'll say save and close. So when you are setting the default profile value or business unit, make sure that for that BU user has access. Otherwise, there is no meaning in that. We know that. Done. Now I'll go to the invoice workbench. From now, you don't need to select any BU. BU will be defaulted. This user access has access to Fusion US Business Unit. That Fusion US Business Unit only you set as a default for this user. That means you did right job. So you'll be able to access. Okay. Create invoices. Done. Sorry. So business unit is default. If you want to record invoice for other BU, yes, you can do that. Always we have that option. China business unit. You can do that. But this user has access to how many BUs the roles which are assigned. Okay, within that only you have to set. If you have a or data set, common set, reference data set, through that whatever the access this user has, within that only you have to set. For which BU this user doesn't have access, that BU, even if you set, if you are going to set the default BU, there is no meaning in that. Okay, we know that. That's it. Okay, so whenever you open this form, this Fusion US Business Unit will get defaulted. Okay, that's all about this setting up default business unit profile option. So when we have access to multiple BUs environment. Any questions on this, please? Fine. So that's all for today. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Anyway, I'll be available for 5 more minutes in this session. Okay. Sharath, your point will cover tomorrow. It's already 9 and all. Okay. Yeah, I'll cover. Just I forgot that point. Otherwise, I could have taken that point only instead of this default video. Okay, no issues. In tomorrow's session, I'll show you that. Okay. Find any questions, please?
Lakshman probably have to check the old videos, but still I'll ask this question.
Yeah,
How
please.
to check the version of this application?
Version of application normally just in case of what I can say, on-premise you can check it. Like however in EBS we have about application, right? From the think some help or about application or tools. I don't remember the navigation. From there about application you can click, it will give the versioning, but in the cloud it won't give in that way. The cloud you cannot find, but it is on premise. Here if you click on that user here along with application help and about this application, it will be this is it, about this page. Along with that we will be having one more function called as about this application, that is available only in the uh, on-premise instance, not to cloud. In the cloud you don't see here. When you get into some technical related objects and all, their reference purpose they'll be giving the version. In that way only you can see. Okay,
Okay.
we'll be doing certain activities in that case. If not one other place you can see that, but directly as a function they are not giving in cloud environment. Hope you can see in that sessions, if not in one other place. I didn't focus on that to see that point when I was doing something, but I'll take this point into consideration and we'll try to find out. But by default here on-premise means here we will be finding one option. Okay, in case of cloud you don't see that as actually there should be one more function, one more hyperlink called as about this application. In cloud that will be missing generally. They don't display that, they'll be hiding. Yeah. Any other questions?
Lakshman, I have one quick question.
Yeah, please.
This one is related setting up with the bank account. You teach me maybe a week ago. So today I was setting up the bank account and I saw one new features. You secure the bank account by user and the role.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether you have touched that one or not.
No.
How do, if I want to use it, how do I can use it?
So no, see that you can specify. There is option where you can specify this bank account can be accessed by so and so user. There you can go and specify so that those users only will be able to access. But we didn't set that control. We didn't set that limitation on the bank account. So that's the reason that will be available for which business unit you are assigning. Say you assigned a bank account to a particular business unit. That business unit can be accessed by many users also, right?
Yes, I want to give it to only specific user.
Yeah. In that case, you can go and specify for that which users and all. That is the option of all about it. I didn't cover in that. I didn't. You might have gone through the videos and all.
So I have to check box and then it'll immediately ask in a user value. Or
Yeah. There you can select the users. Yes.
Okay, I'll try.
Just try on that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yep. There will be many points. Not only that, many points. We have to start. Nothing wrong. Whatever you asked is a very good point. Good thing. But I'm not saying why you are asking and all. I'm not taking that way. Please, just only the point. I'm just trying to give some point as it. Just many things are there like this, which are very very good. But everything it's not possible to cover in the training. Only the point is we have to start exploring. Or else when you are working depending on business requirement, we have to start looking into the relevant area. We have to focus and all. Okay, that anyway. Yeah. Thanks. Fine. Any other questions? Fine. Seems to no questions. Okay. Then that's all for today. And see you in tomorrow's session. Have a good day and good night. And I'll be sharing this video maybe within 1 hour. If not within 1 hour, by at least afternoon I'll be sharing. Okay. So this video directly I'm going to drop in the shared folder. You can access from there. If you have any issue with this, I request you to email us. If any instance related access or video related access, if you have, just email us. Anything, just please email me. If email, always I'll be accessing. I have access to this email. I'll be checking. But call in the sense our team will be receiving. Okay, if you want to communicate with me directly through mail and all, immediately just you can drop me a mail in the erpt.com@gmail.com, so we can have a just you can expect quick reply on that. Fine, that's all for today.
Tarun here.
Yeah, Tarun.
I have one suggestion. Probably I don't know how it
Please,
works
please,
out.
please.
Why don't you put up a blog on your name for Fusion, because we have all half informations everywhere for Fusion. So if you probably you can put up your own blog, and like we can run through different FAQs and all those things. And we have so many participants from different schedules, right? So all
Correct,
those
correct.
people can share their
Exactly, you are right. You are right. The same we are working on it in the erpt.com only. I think that is already our developer is working on it. Maybe you can see in a couple of days. We are going to do that.
There are a good
Just
number of questions to that.
correct, correct. There will be good number of questions. Again, we are going to post some articles also within that, which gives good information. And I'll invite people to write articles if they have interest also. We'll see that. We'll work on it.
Great. Thank you.
Tarun, you may write one or two articles.
Definitely, definitely.
Great, great, great,
You
great.
have already. Thank
Great,
you.
great. Thank you so much. We'll do that. We'll work on it. Yeah. Fine, we'll do that. Okay. Thanks, Tarun. Thanks for raising this. Yeah, we are working on it. We are working on it. You very soon you'll see that ERP3 only separate tab called as articles. So we are going to put module-wise articles. We'll be writing. We'll be posting in that. You can go through it. Some additional information also get from that. We can take on concept and we can focus on that. That will be writing as an article. Okay, we'll do that. Fine. Any other questions from anyone? Yeah. Thanks, Tarun. Fine. Okay, then see you tomorrow. Have a good day and good night.